Hey, what's up, guys? It's Dr. Will with Uncensored Perception. This is podcast number 6, and today we are featuring Tammy Polenz. We also have Mitchel Madak, our co-host here today. Good to see everybody. Good to see everybody. Hi, Tammy. How are you?
Good morning. How are you guys?
Doing fantastic.
Good.
Thanks for having me on this morning. I appreciate it. I'm really excited about today.
Oh, of course. I'm going to give you your introduction because you're well deserving of it. So Tammy is the founder and president of Vedas Living. She's been in fitness for over 25 years. She is an author. She was in club ownership. She does business coaching. She also does gym design. So this healthy way of designing gyms and spaces. I mean, she's doing amazing stuff. And, my first question is, Tammy, what are you not doing? What are you not doing in the health and fitness world?
Not very many things. I like to have a lot of stuff on my plate. And I think a little bit of ADD is, part of my entrepreneurial problem.
Me too.
Yeah. High energy people, right?
Yeah, that's it, man.
It's very relatable.
Yeah.
For sure. So what began you on the journey of that? So everybody has things in their lives that made, them choose their passion or made their special talents, what helped them craft it. What started you in that journey and why you chose fitness world and all that stuff?
Great question. And I think purpose is a really big thing. And for me, it was something that grasped a hold of me. Not something I decided upon. So when I was about 15 years old, I had been doing everything completely wrong. Like most young girls, I had poor body image and I was starving myself. And then I was watching Corey Everson one day. I don't know if you guys know who she is, but she was a bodybuilder back in the day. And she had all these really scantily dressed people that looked totally hot on her show. And they were working out with weights. And I had never worked out with weights before. And they were talking about good nutrition and then exercise. And I thought, that's what I've been trying to attain this whole time for vanity reasons, right? I had poor self-esteem and I wanted to look great for vanity reasons. And so I started exercising. And when I started exercising, it's transformed my body. But what happened that was unexpected is that my body, my temple got stronger. So the spirit within got stronger. It started to grow. And then I fell in love with it. Absolutely. And by the time I was 18, I decided that I wanted to do this for a living. So I got certified as a personal trainer. And I realized that I wasn't eating the diet that they were promoting. I was still starving myself. And I thought, if I'm going to be promoting this to other people, then I need to walk the walk if I'm going to be talking the talk. Mm-hmm. And once I did that, life completely shifted for me. Like my energy went through the roof. My spirit continued to grow. I felt more connected to the world. And it was like the beginning of my journey to this career in health and wellness.
That's awesome. I'm really excited for you to have, gone through that and be where you are today. Okay, so little window to everybody. Can we tell them that we did this podcast already, but then it got messed up? So we recorded once before, this past Wednesday, and the record button got turned off. So everybody, this is actually technically podcast 2. But I know the first time around, I definitely said this, but I still feel this way. I felt like saying it again when you were speaking. I'm very happy for you, having had that self-discovery and that connection with your spirit amongst everything, and that you're in a good place.
Yeah, it was actually, that's that part that was unexpected, like connecting to my spirit and my spirit growing. What happened there is I just intuitively then became really attracted to Ayurvedic medicine. I could not get enough information about health and wellness along the way. And so I worked in fitness centers and then started my own one-on-one personal training studio back in 1999. That was about 500 square feet. And slowly grew up to about 3,000 square feet and started incorporating some corporate wellness. Someone walked into my gym one day and they basically said hey, how would you like to go into corporations and teach them about health and wellness? And I was like, I get to talk to hundreds of people at one time, count me in. It was awesome. And so that's how that journey started. So not only was I, teaching people in the gym about health and wellness, but then I was going into corporations and telling people about health and wellness. And that's kind of where my book, Think Fit to Be Fit, started too. What I realized is that every single day I was trying to teach people about basic fundamentals. What's a protein, what's a fat, what's a carb. Now people are more educated now because of Google, but back then we're talking in 1999, Google wasn't around yet, which is kind of funny to think about.
Yeah.
And so I decided to put together a pamphlet, and the pamphlet just kind of broke down what protein, fats, and carbs were. And then my clients were, I would tell them a story or give them an analogy about something else about eating well. And they said, you should put that in your pamphlet. So my pamphlet turned into like a 72-page document. And then from there, as I was teaching weight management in corporations, it turned into basically a book. So that's how my book came about. I was teaching in companies like Cargill and North Ohio Heart Center and just, different companies all around town. And then from there, I left the corporate wellness side of things and opened up a gym on my own in 2009 in downtown. And this is where Dr. Will and I met. You walked in, you sent me an email, you said, right?
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, I was just starting out my chiropractic career, a 3-year-old, tugging at my side. And I was like, hey, I want to get out there and I want to work with other entrepreneurs, other business owners. And I sent out a ton of emails to a lot of gyms around the Cleveland area. And Tammy was literally one of the only people who sent a message back. And I think, obviously that was because you have that collaborative mindset as well. And that's kind of where we're going with all this type of stuff. But yeah, Tammy sent a message back and, we met each other and we started working at Vedas first. So we were at Vedas first. And then we went over to what is now Ascend, right? Mm-hmm. Correct? Yeah, what is now Ascend. So we worked there together. And now obviously we're here, which is like 4 or 5 years later. Kind of coming back full circle to do another collaborative thing together, which is always amazing.
Yeah. So I ended up taking like a little bit of a turn. So I opened up a second facility. My first facility was 5,000 square feet. And to me, collaboration is critically important when it comes to holistic health. Like, it's not just about eating right. It's not just about exercising. There's the whole spiritual component. There's the balancing life. There's, part of taking care of your body is making sure that you work with a massage therapist, an acupuncturist, a chiropractor, like all of that should work seamlessly together. And that's kind of where my book leads, in the sense that like not every diet, is perfect for everyone. It's not one size fits all. It's, you have to find out what's right for you, but then you also have to have balance of all these different modalities that come together. And so that's what Vedas was about. And then I took on partners and opened up a larger facility in Key Tower, and then realized after designing several spaces that I really fell in love with that. And the architect that I had been doing some consulting for invited me to work for him, and I sold off my businesses and have kind of started that journey. And you wouldn't think that, I almost felt like I was leaving fitness in one sense, but not really in another sense, because I think what people don't realize is like there are some things on the forefront that involve active and well-building design. Mm-hmm. So active design is creating communities that promote activity in health and wellness, opportunity to bike paths and good transportation and green spaces. And then there's well-building design where, people have usually heard about LEED, right? And LEED is, making less of an ecological footprint. And then there's EDAP, which they use in the medical arena, which is about evidence-based design. And that's pretty interesting, and it ties into well-building design. So evidence-based design means that there are certain design features that literally impact patient outcomes. So if a patient has a window facing outside and they get natural daylight, they don't need as much pain medication. They'll heal faster and they'll be released sooner. And that to me was amazing. And now well-building design kind of takes all of those things and then adds another layer onto that. Well-building design is about creating spaces. So space and design dictate behavior. Mm-hmm. And an example of that would be that, like, if you most buildings, you walk into their lobby and then you have to look for the elevator to go up floors. But in a well-building design building, you have a staircase that's this beautiful kind of ornate, inviting piece of artwork, architecture, right? That invites you to take the stairs up instead of the elevator, and the elevator is still close by, integrated within the stairs. So for ADA compliancy, but the objective is that to get people moving. And so there's this really neat layer to design that I just fell in love with, and I kind of made the shift, but I didn't leave fitness.
You know what's so funny is if you told someone to take the stairs, what would they do?
Yeah, they would resist you, right? They wouldn't want to do it. But there's
That's
a herd mentality, right? If you see if you see a staircase there, you don't even think twice.
Yeah.
And if you see everyone else doing it, then you're going to go follow what everyone else is doing.
Yeah. 100%. I love that part of it, that you're promoting health and wellness without, verbally or pushing someone to do it. You're encouraging them through putting it at the forefront, right? You're putting it in front of them and saying, hey, this is the best route to travel, right? Let's put the elevators behind the stairs, far back, right? Yes, if you need them and you're disabled or whatnot, you can't get up the stairs, then yes, please use that. But hey, to stay well, stay happy, live longer, all that good stuff, use these stairs, right? It's right there. It's right in front of you, which is pretty cool.
Exactly. Yeah. I think the thing is in most, like a lot of European cities, that there's a lot of walkability. There's not all this transportation stuff that we have here. The great, when you're in a gym and you're a trainer, you're like, get to the gym so many days a week. People are like, okay, I'll do this. Yeah. But when you design it and then they just automatically do it without even subconscious, thinking about it consciously, it's just a subconscious thing. It's beautiful because they become more active.
They should put more little workout stations out on the streets, like in downtown Cleveland. Wouldn't that be pretty cool if they put little workout stations along the sidewalks and stuff? You just see these people in business suits over there doing some some jumping jacks or something. You know what I mean? But again, I think that's right down the line of what you're talking about, is promoting health and wellness without having to be there and pushing people to do it. You just put it in front of them, and as one person does it, so will the rest, so to speak, right?
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. What do you have, Mitchell? What do you got over there?
So, I guess I'll do like a reference to the last time that we talked. So we talked about, you mentioned the thing about the energy with food that I just was blown away by, and I definitely want you to explain that again for people. I can't exactly remember how it tied into the conversation at the time, but I shared with you that what I thought was really cool about food meditation, and that basically when you're eating food, you should be like conscious, like, thankful for each thing that you're digesting, and what it's giving you, like looking at it like, I'm thankful for this broccoli, it's giving me all this like good nutrients and protein, and I'm thankful for the soil it was in and the people that helped bring it to me, or like all the natural foods and stuff. And then I told you that I ate Wendy's, which that was like no.
We shamed you for.
Shamed me pretty bad. And I was saying how I felt like I couldn't even trace back the ingredients in there to a natural cause. And I'm like, well, that just told me already that it was too processed and stuff for me to even be able to, or should have been eating. And then you brought up something really amazing about like tracing the food back, yes, but also the energy in food. Could you explain that?
Yeah, and we talked about a few different things. So I'm going to touch upon all that because I think it is all relevant. A friend of mine, I love the fact that you have this gratitude towards food and eating and digestion. And what a lot of people don't realize is like gratitude is like just next to enlightenment. Like there's an energetic value to the emotions that we have. And gratitude is one of the top energetic, uplifting emotions. And my friend was saying the thing with food and the thing with, the world that we live in is sometimes we just go through life and we're not as appreciative of the opportunities that we have. And what I mean by that is like when you sit down and you're appreciating that food and you're grateful for it, like a lot of times we don't think about the fact that somebody somewhere around the world planted that food, they cultivated that food, they picked that food, and then after they picked that food, it was transported. And there's this whole chain of people that have literally made made our lives easier, right? Otherwise, we would be the ones cultivating and picking it. And then they ship it to the grocery store so that we can go buy it. And somebody at the grocery store stocks the shelves, and then we purchase it from the checkout person. And then we take it home, and then we unwrap it. And then when we're done, we throw the wrapping away in the grocery bags, and then somebody takes that garbage away. And a friend of mine just, really blew my mind open in the sense that he's like, we need to be grateful for every single person along that path that allowed us to eat this one grape. And I thought, wow. And now every single time I walk into a grocery store or the garbage man drive, I'm like, garbage man, thank you so much. The clerk at the checkout, like, thank you so much for your job. Like, my gratitude has like grown like 1,000-fold since he had that conversation. And I'm so grateful for him to open my eyes that way. And it just ties into the whole collaborative effort of the world. Like, we need to come together. We are coming together. We're supporting each other. And then the other side of that is there's an energetic value to food. And a lot of people don't realize this. We talk about acid and alkaline balance. We talk about keto diets. We talk about all these other things. But when it comes to food, there's an energy. So the body runs on a megahertz of energy, and the body's energy is somewhere between, I think, 60 and 90 megahertz, 60 and 70 megahertz of energy. And when we consume something like chocolate cake, or probably that, what did you have the other day? Taco Bell or something?
I said Wendy's, yeah. Wendy's chicken nuggets.
It's kind of, the food is dead. It's like 3 megahertz of energy. Whereas when you consume like dark green leafy vegetables, it's between like 70 and 90 megahertz of energy. So if you're consuming food that's really processed, you're actually lowering your energy level. And when you consume a live food like dark green leafy foods and fresh picked foods that are alkaline, like, you're elevating your energy. And that's why a lot of people will see this major shift in energy. That energy is like, it creates the microelectricity in the body. There's more nutrients in it. There's more minerals in it. And that microelectricity allows your brain to work much faster. It allows your reflexes to be faster. It allows you to heal faster, all those sorts of things. It expands your energy. I just read an article the other day, and I always knew this, like, you have your atoms in your body, right? Your atoms, the smallest form of energy is a photon. That's what the sun is, electromagnetic energy that comes from the sun down to the earth. Well, within our bodies, we have photons within our cells, and photons are that light. So anytime we eat this high energy food, we're expanding that light. And there's like this tie into enlightenment and spiritual expansion when you're eating these foods. So it completely makes sense that when I made this shift years ago and I started eating really well, like, my tempo got stronger, and then the spirit within just grew well beyond where it was when I was eating terribly. So it's important for people to realize that there's more than just macro and micronutrients in food. There's a whole energetic world out there of value that food brings, and the emotions that tie into that as well. So if you're not feeling well all the time, then it may be because you're not getting the right energy from your food. And I don't mean calories. I mean like this electromagnetic megahertz of energy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What's so wild is most people, don't understand that principle that we are just waves of light and energy, right? We're just a frequency, waves of light and energy. And everything that we put in our body has its own frequency, that wave of light. So if you're looking to move upward, okay, in your expansion or enlightenment or whatnot, then you want to find foods that either match or bring you up higher, right? So obviously Mitchell talking about the Wendy's, and I know he doesn't do that all the time because he eats really well, he does really well, he takes care of his body. But that food in and of itself, like you were saying, that's going to bring your level down, right? So people wonder, hey, why do I have these crashes? And they call them energy crashes, right? After they consume like a milkshake or something like that. After they consume that stuff, they get those energy crashes. And that, is amazing. And I love how you tied it back with, the garbage man and the gardener, the whole cycle, the whole intertwined cycle of how we get things in our lives. And then relating that to gratitude, being grateful for all of those steps, all of those processes that get you the shirt that you're wearing, right? The comb that you're using to brush your hair with, the food, everything, every single thing that we have around us. someone has put energy and thought into it, and then other people have put energy and thought into it to create it so that you have the opportunity of experiencing it. And that's phenomenal. I love it.
Yeah.
Seems like what we're really talking about today. Like, I feel like overall, I love this theme. Is just the interconnectedness, the fundamental of interconnectedness. Like, even when it comes down to you, Tammy, and how you started off with, with having the gyms and stuff, and you felt like you were moving away from that when you started building, these buildings, but you're also still doing, health stuff. And then we're talking about the food here, like, it is all intertwined, like absolutely everything within itself. And it's so cool to see the connection, and the gratefulness can really sprout when you stop and study that, like it's just, you start to realize all the beauty in the world when you start to realize how everything overlaps and connects itself in such beautiful interweaving like patterns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so connected. One of the topics that we've talked about too is collaboration, right? And connectivity. And you'll hear me, I'm such a big reader. You'll hear me quote certain books. And I know you just got this book. I've told you probably 100 times, like, Dr. Lee, get this book. And the book is The 12th Insight. And the author is it's a fiction book, but the author is telling a story. And the story is really a reflection of what's happening in the world today. And what's happening in the world today is we have this polarization. We have this ego-based society, right? Like, I'm right and you're wrong. And if you disagree with me, then, you're on the other side of the spectrum. We see it in politics, we see it in religion, we see it all over the place, gender differences. And it doesn't make sense to me. And a big part of that is we're not listening to one another. So that book talks a lot about this polarization. And, we have two ears and we have one mouth. And in my mind, like, we need each other as a human race. I think that is the theme of this topic today. It's like everything is energy and everything is about people, right? And so as people, we need each other. You can't be completely in a silo. You can't be completely disconnected. You can't be completely dependent or independent. You have to be interdependent, and the entire globe is interdependent. I don't understand boundaries and lines and differences. I don't understand the polarization. In my mind, I think that, what needs to happen for things to improve on a global scale is for us to be more grateful, right? To appreciate and acknowledge, like, there are people out there doing really dirty, hard jobs that maybe we don't want to do. And I'm grateful that I'm not the one who has to be out there, tromping through the mud on a cold, rainy day to cultivate some food. But I'm grateful for the person who's okay to do that. Mm-hmm. And so I think that, when it comes to the polarization of the world, and the way to come together is, instead of, waiting to speak and say, hey, I'm right, and everything you say, I'm going to invalidate, that maybe we can learn something. Like, every single person in the world is this universe of experience that we have no idea what that experience is. And if you stop and you listen and you perspective take and you put yourself in that person's shoes and you try to see the world through their eyes and their experience, it just shifts your consciousness. You just kind of expanded beyond yourself to step outside of yourself into somebody else and go, wow, that's pretty amazing. Or I can't imagine how difficult that would be. Or how exciting is that? But to do that, you have to listen. And Dr. Will, you and I were just talking about this before we started the recording. 2 eyes, 1 mouth. You have to listen. You have to mirror back. You have to, perspective take and try to understand somebody else. And when you start doing that, then maybe you'll hear and understand in ways that you never did before. Yeah. And then when you can do that, instead of invalidating somebody else, you can start to understand where they're coming from. Like, everyone's view, there's this thing called phenomenology. And if you watched a car accident, 10 different people watched a car accident, each person would tell the story slightly different because of their line of view, right? Mm-hmm. But it doesn't mean that every story is wrong. It means that your perspective, based upon your biases, your line of view, whatever else may have been going on, changes the story ever slightly. And so if we can just understand everyone's story and understand their line of view and their perspective, instead of us being so polarized, we can come together and go, I never saw it that way before. Thank you for sharing that. here's my perspective. And now I think I might shift my perspective a little bit and step closer towards yours. And I think that's how we slowly do it, right? That's how we slowly come together.
Or even realize that the perspectives were never actually different. They appeared to be different perspectives, but they're all part of one same picture. It's like a puzzle. We're all pieces of a perspective, a collective.
Yeah. I work with obviously the Positive Pineapple, and we had them on, I think it was episode 2 of the podcast, but we work with them. They do breath work stuff and polar plunges, mindset coaching, all that type of stuff. But we hang out a lot. And one of the things that Anthony of the Positive Pineapple would say, he said, by listening, you're able to fill in those little informational gaps. Okay. So if you listen, and maybe you're listening, but you're like, all right, whatever, this is just information. But the crazy wild thing is that your brain is so powerful that your subconscious will take those little bits of information and is literally filling in the story, so to speak, of anything, really. So whatever you're listening to, so what you think now becomes deeper ingrained, if that makes sense. You're getting more information. You're filling in that puzzle to create that bigger picture, if that makes sense. And I always love that when he said that. He's like, every time you're listening and you're listening with intent, you are filling in those gaps of information that is now strengthening your awareness to the world.
Yeah. And your relationship with people. To that point, I love that point. Thank you for making that point. One of the, I think, biggest challenges that I have is, we stereotype, we meet somebody and we think we know them. And we've all, I think, experienced this at some point in time in our life where people think they know us and then they get to know us and they're like, I never thought you were like this at all,
Yeah.
And we got to stop doing that. It's because when you don't fill in the gaps for what you think somebody is, allow them to fill in the gaps, because you may be pleasantly surprised. Actually, more often than not, you're pleasantly surprised and you learn something new and your consciousness has just been expanded.
Yeah, absolutely.
100%.
So I have a quote of yours. I can't remember if it was technically a quote or something that was maybe in your book, but it was a post you made. I'm going to read it to you, and I feel like it ties in pretty well with where we're at in the conversation. Okay, so I think you posted this back in December. It says, elevating humanity means forging a new path for doing business. Feminine energy has always been viewed in business as weakness. However, it is strength that you see when a hand is held out to another to lift them up. A listening ear is lent to help someone feel heard and seen. An empathetic voice supports and lifts up instead of diminishes another's spirit. Failing to do these things is actual weakness in business, not strength. I feel like that ties in pretty well with where we were at too.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I don't know what spawned that. Sometimes something will happen and a conversation will come up. I think, I read a book, not that long ago, and it ties into some experiences that I've had just being a woman in business, and how, sometimes you can be in a boardroom and they think you should be getting coffee instead of contributing to the conversation, which still happens, which is sad. And we've come so far compared to other cultures. And, race is another one where that tends to happen, sadly. But there's a book that I read recently, and it's it's about diminishers and elevators, and how people can even subconsciously put others down and they're not elevating them. And part of that is that softness. I think there's a destructive force, or there can be a destructive force when it comes to an ego-based society, and it's kind of ego-based around the world. I mean, it's still there, but we're seeing this kind of patriarchal shift where matriarchal kind of role is shifting. We see women elevating into powerful positions that we haven't seen before. We see this happening in other cultures, which is really pretty great. In my mind, I mean, masculine energy, especially to the divine masculine, it's very important. In the divine feminine is very important because it balances, it's like creation, procreation, creativity, nurturing, right? With that whole being strong and masculine, and there's a destructive force, right? It's not negative. I mean, it's like a flower. When a flower blossoms, there's a point where it grows, and then there's a point where it dies. And you have to have this cycle of life, and the feminine and masculine and birth and rebirth and all that is, part of the cycle. So I think one of the main things that I had in my mind when I wrote that was that I still often see where that competitiveness, that drive, that like us and not we is still a whole part of what's happening in our culture. I think that's also, the reason for a lot of this polarity in politics and spirituality and all this other stuff. And instead, in my view, and this is why I started the Community for Women. The Community for Women was started with, 3 pillars in mind. A lot of women are still being diminished, and I wanted to change that. And I wanted to elevate women, and men watch the videos that we put out and they go, "This is great stuff. Thanks for, sharing." So it's not strictly for women, but just wanted to help women out a little bit. And so the first pillar is community, creating that safe space where we're holding each other's hands and we're lifting each other up. And sometimes we're like, lifting them up and letting them stand on our shoulders. And I think that should be true for men and women and everyone, just the human race in general. And the second part of that is visibility, to promote visibility of women. Like, what are you doing and what is unique about what you're doing? What's your contribution to the world? How are you making it a better place, post you being here versus prior to you being here? And that third part of that is education. But the main gist of it, and the main gist of that quote was that we have to come together, stop fighting each other, like in the Matrix, right? That fight scene in the last one, they kept going on and on and on. I mean, that's like the world today, like the fight scene. We're just trying to fight, like, no. And then when he finally surrenders at the end and he's like, no, this is not how it's supposed to be. Let's stop fighting and surrender and hold hands and elevate each other. And that's when the human race elevates.
Yeah, I agree. And that's one of the reasons why Mitchel and I put this podcast together, was to bring in that collaborative of nature, of working with other people, exposing some things that people don't know about, especially like, with the hertz and the frequencies of food and things like that. There was a great quote that I heard along with what you were talking about. And it said, help, people get what they want or desire. And in turn, you will get what you want and desire, right? So the key here is to help others, to reach out, help others. And that's, the basis of what we're trying to do, and how we're connecting, and how we connected, 4 or 5 years ago, was working together. Come together. Let's work together so that we can help other people. And in turn, we will get what we desire, which is usually just happiness, right? And I think that's what we're all really going for, is helping others, and that helping others turns into happiness coming back in our direction. We want to call it money, but whatever you want to call it, just happiness, being happy, being joyful within yourself.
Yeah, give if you want to receive. And Tony Robbins says it great. He goes, the more people you help in the world, the more money you make. The more happiness and abundance you have. It's just inevitable. The more you give, the more you receive. It's karma. It's like this, it's the energy of life, the flow.
Yeah. Do you guys remember? Go ahead, Mitchel.
It's all part of a shared experience. We're not alone. We're, the more you throw into the, if you're in like a swimming pool, the more love in the swimming pool, the more you're all swimming in it. And I want to add real quick before I forget, you were talking about the masculine feminine energy balance, and I saw it in my head for a moment as like one of my favorite symbols that I like. Even my music is kind of around a little bit, is the infinity symbol. And when you're saying the creation, destruction, flow, it's the infinity. And what's happening in the world today is, instead of it being allowed to be balanced and flow like this, it's kind of doing like little bubble and then big bubble and then like little, and it's not an equal balance of infinity. It's still rolling, but right now, the planet's being destroyed in so many ways, and people are dying and stuff because there's too much of the destructive ego energy going on. There's not an equal amount of recreation and rebirth and and love and in lifting up happening. So like there's not enough strength there to handle the pressure and the destruction force on this end either. So there's not an equal balance. And I thought that was something I kind of wanted to add there.
Yeah, no, I love that. I think it goes hand in hand with this whole like winning concept, right? Like winner, if there's a winner, there's a loser. And I understand in sports and stuff like that, either whatever, there's a model there. But I think that ultimately when it comes to business and evolution of the world and helping people and where do we see the world going? There is no winner and loser. I mean, like it's like we're just one. We're all one human race, and why would we want to push somebody down so that we can stand on top of them? Why don't we all come together and solve problems together? When we start doing that, that's when there's going to be a big shift.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that vision and that collaborative
Yeah.
of what are we doing? What are you doing? I know you and Erica Sabo, right? That's how I say her.
Yeah.
Sabo.
Table.
You guys are doing something together. Let's talk about that. We have about 4 minutes left,
Okay.
I believe.
Yeah.
Hopefully this thing keeps working. So let's talk about that real quick.
Sure. So what am I doing right now? So I'm, currently working for an architect and doing this Fitwell overlay to some of the projects that we're working on. And then on my own, I'm doing the Vedas living community, which is the community of women elevating women. And so it's just basically like join the community and you get these benefits of being elevated and have access to other like-minded women so that we can have conversations like this that are just uplifting and supportive and safe, right? And doing business in a woman's way instead of that typical competitive man's way, holding hands and sharing in the effort. And then Think Fit to Be Fit, I republished my book on Amazon because the publisher went out of business. And so now it's on Kindle. And then Erica and she has Elevate and Evolve, and she's doing some neat things with vegan and raw diet. And then we collaborated and we're doing some videos. We're just doing quick tips that are Think Fit to Be Fit tips based upon the book. And just encouraging people and, teaching people like, what's the importance of water? That's what we just posted. And, what are all the processes that's involved in and how can you drink more water? And, why is that, going to help you reach your goals? So that's some of the stuff that we're working on. And I think, you and I are talking about doing some things too. So I consult for Ascend downtown. So we're trying to, bring some things together for more visibility and also more education to support the world in their efforts that way too. And I think one of the last points that I'd like to make that we didn't mention yet on this talk is that I love the 12th insight because it talks very much about finding your village. Mm-hmm. And, we can go so far on our own. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And we're realizing that, right? I mean, we're saying like, hey, we are like-minded. Let's help each other to accomplish our goals of, making the world a healthier place. How can we, leave it better off than where we got here? And when you connect with your village, it actually helps to elevate you and make things easier and you become a powerhouse. So I encourage people to find their village.
Yeah, I 100%. I want to, call to action right on top of that. Get out of the singular mindset and start focusing on how you can collaborate with others. That is the key. Like you said, you can go far together. And again, that is the basis of this podcast of learning and gaining awareness and, working with other entrepreneurs and raising the vibration of this planet so that, we can have that heaven on earth that we know truly exists, right?
Yeah, love it. I think that's a great way to end that.
And like Tammy, like you said before, there's so many things about people that you may think them, you may stereotype them in your head as like, oh, I think I know who that type of person is. We wouldn't get along. But there's so many people out there that you'd be just blown away are actually probably even more part of your village than some of the people you have in your life already, just waiting to be met and understood and loved. And like, I feel like mankind, we have a lot more in common overall than we realize. And there's a lot more people in, the whole world, I think at one point could be a village, one giant village easily. Yeah. And I think we'll get there, especially through gratitude and understanding the interconnectedness that we all share all the time. We're always part of the same village, even when we don't see it. Yeah. So it's like, getting awareness of that and that consciousness growing and growing our spirits with that.
Good point. I think that's exactly to Dr. Wells' point and everything we talked about here today.
Yeah.
That's what it's meant to be. That's heaven on earth, when we start acting like we're one village.
100%, 100%. Tammy, I want to thank you so much for obviously connecting again on take two here on this Friday morning. This podcast should have been out this morning, but that's okay. Everything happens for a reason. I think this was an amazing talk here. We covered a lot of great topics, and the call to action: work together, work with others, expand yourself, and just do it. Just do. Get out there and do. Help other people. Have fun.
Live your passion. Live your
That's it.
passion.
And buy Tammy's book.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Think Fit to Be Fit on Amazon right now. And we'll post all these links below when we post this. So awesome stuff. It's not enough time for us to cover, everything that we need to cover. But I think we got a good slice out there that hopefully people will grab onto, and they'll be able to contact you and continue this expansion.
Thank you again, you guys. I appreciate your time.
Yeah,
thank you so much for coming.
Yes, we'll see you guys again. This will be posted sometime today. We're going to get it out there on Friday, and hopefully you enjoy it. Thanks so much, Tammy.
Bye.
Bye, guys.